Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Murphy, and I'm here with Derek Varansky, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction and Federal Programs. I'm the Superintendent here at Tusky Valley Local Schools, and I want to thank you for joining us tonight. This is our second virtual coffee chat to discuss our Safe Start reopening planning guide, and we're happy to be here with you tonight. Thank you for tuning in. And we just invite you to just listen and follow along as we go through several things. I'm not going to share with you a 31-page document that we have. We will eventually share that 31-page document with you, but that would be way too much tonight. So what we're going to do is just share an overview of the planning guide and do our best to answer the questions that you may have. Our goal all along has been to do what's best and right for our students and focus on the safety of students and our staff as well. So we're just going to walk through this. As we get started, I want to, well, first of all, let me back up. I want to say thanks to Chris Lewis. Chris is our technology coordinator. Chris is behind the camera making all of this happen. So Chris, thank you so much. And I greatly appreciate Mr. Varansky and his participation in serving as co-host. We're really here representing our entire team, our entire staff, and our Board of Education. I want to let you know that right out of the gate here, as we get started, everything here is really subject to change. It is changing every single day. So that's the first point I want to make. With COVID-19, we were on a conversation today with our health commissioner of the Tuscarawas County Health Department for 2 hours. And one of the things that she said was that because this is such a highly evolving virus, even the guidance continues to change for them on a regular basis. So just know that. We've also designed this and formulated this plan in cooperation with and in consultation with Governor DeWine's office, obviously, through orders and expectations and requirements, as well as our Department of Education and the Ohio Department of Health, our local health department, staff surveys, parent surveys, meetings, Zoom meetings, and here we are tonight doing a virtual coffee chat. This is not yet board approved. It is going to be my recommendation at Monday's meeting. Our Board of Education has a special board meeting on Monday, whatever it is, Monday, July 27th at 8 a.m., and it will be my recommendation at that time that the board review and approve this plan. And again, everyone knows that it's subject to change. So we're just going to jump into our top priorities. Our top priorities at Tuscarawas Valley Local Schools, especially in light of what we're walking through and dealing with right now, is the safety of our students and our staff. That has always been a top priority. It is one of our core values, and in this particular case, it is the top priority. A lot of people want me to ensure and guarantee their safety. I can't, and I won't. But what I will tell you is that we will do our very best to live by and adhere to the expectations that have been outlined for us by the Department of Health, the Department of Education, our local health department, etc. Secondly, our second top priority is that any decision that we make, including the delivery of instruction, including whatever model that we find ourselves in, it's intended to be what's best for students educationally as well as socially and emotionally. And you may ask me, well, Mr. Murphy, can you guarantee everybody's academic success and their social emotional happiness and their wellness and protection? No, I can't. But it matters, and we care, and we will do everything we can to make it a top priority, and our actions will follow through. And then thirdly, the third top priority is that remote learning. If we find ourselves in any kind of remote learning, whether that's a hybrid mode, which is, by the way, a hybrid mode is a combination of in-person and remote learning, or if we find ourselves in full remote learning. We've learned a lot from the 3 months of March, April, and May. We want to make those, if we're in remote learning, we want to make it as strong and as robust and as educationally sound as we possibly can. But if we find ourselves in a hybrid mode, our goal is to limit the capacity of students in the building, and we would design those days, those in-person days and remote days based upon family groups. So our goal is to keep, to the best of our ability, keep our siblings together. We believe that it just makes sense, if we can, to keep our siblings together, so that parents are operating off of one schedule for their children, not a variety. So the next slide, and you should see these slides, by the way, between Mr. Varansky and I here on the chalkboard. It will look like it's on the chalkboard. But our overarching guiding principles. So again, I've mentioned this already to you, but again, the Department of Health, the Ohio K-12 Schools Safety and Guidance document. Obviously, the Department of Education's Reset, Restart document. Thirdly, the Ohio Public Health System, the coronavirus alert system that Ohio has now created, which is the county by county color system based on 7 different indicators, and it may be 10 indicators now. I'm not quite sure. It started off with 7. And then the other guiding principle and the guiding document or resource that we refer to is our health department. So even just last week, our health commissioner reached out to our local superintendents and said, you know what, here's a 2-page document of, in addition to everything else, another 2-page document that she would like to see in our plans. And I am pleased to tell you, Derek, and all of us, Mrs. Seward replied to reviewing our plan and just said, this is one of the most thorough plans that she has reviewed. So, and she just said, very well done. And she offered a couple suggestions too, which we've continued to incorporate. So let me back up. When we think about remote learning, when we think about March, April, and May, I mean, we were just thrust into that very quickly. And kudos to our teachers and staff, our entire team here at Tusky Valley, and our families, our students, for making that work. But based on the surveys that we did at the end of May, because we wanted to reach out to our parents and to our staff and say what went well, what didn't go well, what can we learn, what can we get better at. And so some things that we've learned, and these are I mean, there are lots of things that we learned, but the themes were loud and clear. And the themes from parents were that asking the district, please provide clarity in terms of the learning platform. So in other words, it seems like we're using lots of different learning platforms, things called Seesaw and Google Classroom. And are we using Google Meet or are we doing Zoom? Well, some people have a leaning or a preference to one or the other. And it was so, and so do our teachers and staff. So we want to, parents were asking for clarity and training on technology in terms of the platforms. Secondly, Mr. Murphy and Mr. Varansky, to our team, to our teachers, we really want reasonable assignment dates. So in other words, we heard pretty loud and clear that parents do not like getting or having their son or daughter have a midnight on a Saturday night deadline. And that's probably more at the high school level than anywhere else, but those are the things we just need to be sensitive to. Thirdly, the desire is we want our Tusky Valley teachers to be the teachers. So yes, as a teacher, yes, I'm always going to rely on resources beside myself to share, and that's fine. But what our parents were asking for, and I think it's a wonderful testimony that they're asking, I really want Mr. Varansky to be the teacher. It's okay for Mr. Varansky to reference another teacher or a YouTube video or a book I mean, that's what we do. Mm-hmm. But primarily, I really want Mr. Varansky to be my teacher because I know him. I know his voice. I know his tone. I know him. I know what he expects. And then fourthly, technology training, and I mentioned that earlier. Just providing some opportunities for our parents to get up to speed on some of the things that we're using educationally here in our school district. So that's what we've learned from our parents. What have we learned from our teachers and staff? The overarching themes from our teachers, obviously, is we're concerned about safety. We want our environments to be safe. Are they going to be sanitized? How often are they going to be sanitized? Is everybody going to wear a mask? What are you going to do if they don't wear a mask? What are you going to do, Mr. Murphy, if students don't wear a mask and they're supposed to wear a mask? How often is it going to be sanitized? Who's going to sanitize? Where are the checklists that it's been sanitized? All of those kinds of things. That is a concern of our teaching staff. It's a concern of everyone. I mean, obviously, we're here because of a pandemic. It is a concern. and we want to treat that with all due diligence. Secondly, our teaching staff has asked for clarity of expectations because, again, as educators, we all have different preferences. We all have different leanings. We all have different styles of teaching. But expectations in terms of assignments and grading, expectations with the remote learning process, the learning platforms. So a lot of similar themes with the parents. And the third overarching theme that we hear from our teaching staff is, Mr. Varansky, principals, Mr. Murphy, can you be sure to give us enough time? Can you give us the time that we need to plan, have collaboration time, have quality professional development and technology training, bring me up to speed on the newest technology and equipment in my room? Could we have more equipment? So all of those kinds of things. What do you think, Mr. Varansky? Am I covering all of these, the overarching themes?
Yep, you got it.
Okay. The other thing, as a parent and staff member, you may be curious, well, Mr. Murphy, what were those results? The staff survey, the parent survey. Just 2 weeks ago, on July 6th, July 7th, I shared a survey with all of our parents and was only 4 questions. So I would like to share those responses with all of our parents right now for those that are watching or watch later. Well, we have a total student population of about 1,350 students, about that. And fortunately, 861 parents responded to the survey. So statistically speaking, that's a pretty strong survey result. So here, the opening question was, given everything that given all of the information, as well as current COVID statistics, our family believes that Tusky Valley should, and there were 3 responses, 3 options. And the first one was reopen normally with all students at full capacity every day, recognizing and understanding that you really can't maintain 6-foot distancing in our school environments with full capacity. That was option 1. Option 2 was reopen with a combination of in-person and remote, some form of a hybrid, to better then be able to maintain those safety standards and 6-foot distancing and that kind of thing. And the third option that families could choose was to reopen with 100% remote learning. So interesting to me was that our parents said 57% said reopen normally, all students full capacity, 57%. Compare that to our staff. The staff survey on the same questions via our Zoom, 4 different Zoom meetings last week, as well as a meeting last Monday with several members of our executive committee with teachers, our board leadership, our full administrative team. And those folks said 26% open normally. And then in terms of option 2, reopen with a combination of in-person and remote, the parents said 28% and staff said 58%. And reopen with 100% remote, it's just not safe, keep everybody at home. Parents said 15%, staff said 16%. So there's the survey results on the opening question. The next 3 I'll just kind of run through quickly. The next one was about the governor's recommendation. This is kind of null and void now, but the governor's recommendation about children grades 3 and above wearing masks at school, his strong recommendation. That's null and void now because now all students will be required, or are currently, if we were to be in session right now, all students grades 3 and above or ages 10 and above will be required to wear masks or some kind of face covering at school. And we will talk about that in a moment. The third question was regarding transportation. I plan to transport my children to and from school given that they can't socially distance on a school bus. That was split exactly 50-50. And then the last question for our parents, which I think is a phenomenal testament to our teaching staff, to all of our teachers and employees, the district as a whole, is that about 91% said, you know what, Mr. Murphy, we want our students to be with our Tusky Valley teachers, and we will follow whatever model is decided. That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
91% said we will follow whatever model is designed. 8% said, you know what, I'm not comfortable with that, and I'm interested in my son or daughter going 100% online through the Tusky Valley Trojan Academy. And we'll talk about that as an option. And then the remaining 1%, actually less than 1%, was, hey, you know what, Mr. Murphy, this is just not going to work at all, and I'm going to withdraw my son or daughter. Now, we hope and trust that that does not happen, and we will make individual contact over these next few weeks with these families that, at least initially 2 weeks ago, indicated, but people then didn't know this plan. They didn't know what we were thinking. Other than me, over the past several weeks, I've just been saying, you know, I could see us possibly starting with some form of a hybrid given the conditions.
Sure.
Given what we knew at the time. So, okay, so then the most important part, I think, of our evening and what, as a parent, family member, staff member, that you would want to know is what is the decision framework? How are we deciding what kind of model of instruction we're going to be following? So you should see on the screen behind us the decision framework, and we've done our best. I know we didn't have to. Lots of different schools are doing different things. Some schools are creating their own color systems. I didn't think that was appropriate. We felt that it was, let's align with the county color system for simplicity. Let's model after that and make decisions based on the guidance that we're getting. So yellow means that there is active exposure and spread, and we would obviously, hopefully, be in a traditional model. If the county of Tuscarawas County were yellow, our goal would be that we would open normally. We would be in normal operations, all students, all 5 days, everything normal, with safety protocol in place as best we can, with distancing as best we can. And now, again, we were saying face coverings recommended, but now that, again, unless the requirement changes, right now that's required. Orange is the county color that we currently find ourselves in. That would then call for a hybrid mode, so a combination of in-person and remote learning. That means that there is increased exposure and spread, and that school districts, or just as a county, we should take a high degree of caution. We would do our best to maintain that 6-foot distancing, but again, the beauty of, well, I don't know if I should say beauty of. Honestly, if you were to ask me, you know, Mark, what do you like here? I really don't like any of this. What I like is being here normally. What I like is for our students to be in school with our teaching staff, with everything running normally. That's what I would like.
Yeah.
But I do believe in what we're doing. I believe this is the safest, most thorough, responsible plan that we can come up with based on everything that we have in front of us. So anyways, we're in orange right now. That means we would do a combination of an in-person and remote with the 6-foot distancing. And the beauty of that, again, is that we've got less kids in our environments. Less kids on buses, less kids in the cafeteria, less kids in my classroom, etc. And then if it were red, we would either continue in a hybrid mode or go into a remote mode based on the environment, the circumstances, the scenarios, the staffing situation, the student cases, the COVID cases, whatever our health department is guiding us to do based on the situation we find ourselves in. I want to be very clear, very, very clear. To me, we are using the county color system as a guide to help us make the best decision in the safety, well-being, and education of our children and staff. But when it's all said and done, it will not matter what color we are in. Ultimately, based on the scenario and the situation this district finds itself in, based on staff, students, health department guidance, we will have the discretion to do what's best and right for our kids and our staff and our families. And in saying that, I also know full well that there is no perfect answer. And that, I continue to face scrutiny every moment for everything, every decision. And I get that. And I have a lot of personal feelings, personal preferences, and this isn't it. I don't have the luxury of doing what I would personally like to do. And I say it's we. It is always we. And I just am so thankful for our administrative team for its work. But that is our overarching picture of the decision framework. I'm going to...
Mr. Murphy,
Yeah.
before we, and
Yeah.
Mr. Lewis, if we can go back to that previous screen.
Yeah.
We know that the governor is going to announce on Thursdays
thank you.
the change to the counties. So if we get to a Thursday, right now we're in orange, if we would get to a Thursday and the color changes, how quickly are we going to change?
Well, again, my hope would be, we've kind of been all over the place with this. We want to be mindful of what our families need, timing, of what's helpful for staff, what's okay for students. So ideally, if the color system changed, today's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday, then if the colors change today, then our hope would be that starting Monday, the following Monday, we would implement whatever model we would need to adjust to. If that's not if we know that that's just not going to work, then we won't do it. We'll wait, or we'll adjust it at a most reasonable time. But yeah, I mean,
Perfect.
thank you for asking
Thank
that.
you.
You want me to keep going for safety, or?
No, I think we're okay at the moment.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right. Safety and sanitization. The 4 expectations and guidance that we are expected to adhere to are the assessment for symptoms. Number 1, again, this is coming from the Ohio Department of Health, based on information from the Centers of Disease Control and that kind of thing. But first of all is the assessment for symptoms. So that is expecting the daily at-home temperature and health check for you and me, for our children, for our staff members. We're expecting people to do that on their own. I'm not I mean, the question could likely be, well, okay, so who's going to do it at school? Are you going to buy the scan things that students have to walk through, and that staff? I mean, they're there. Right. You just have to pay out the yin yang for them. Yeah. Are you gonna do that, or are you gonna have someone there with a thermometer for every child as they enter the room, or how about every time they get up on a school bus? Our answer to that currently is no, absolutely not. We're going to trust our parents and families. We're going to trust our staff. That's what we've always done. I trust them. I trust them to do what's best. And if you're sick, you stay home. You know when you're sick, you just stay home. It's a common sense thing. But we're asking for that to be done before coming to school. What we are able to do in each of our offices, this is not just Nurse Crank having to be speedy Nurse Crank zooming from 4 schools around 4 schools. Nurse Crank will be, along with myself, the liaison between our school district and the health department. However, each of our office staffs, our secretaries, other office personnel, our principals are fully capable when they have suspicion of someone is not feeling well, or suspicion of COVID, or if someone says, I just don't feel good, I've got a temperature and I know or I've lost my sense of taste, I've lost my sense of smell. Okay, then what happens? That's the next question. What do we do? Anyone showing symptoms, they're going to be quarantined at school. They're going to be quarantined. They're going to be given a face covering if they don't have one, if they're not wearing one, and they will be sent home. They will be supervised. We're not just going to, leave them in some room by themselves. Right. That's not what we do. But they will be supervised by who? Probably the school nurse and/or office staff. I trust our building principals to create those kinds of plans with us. Anyone that tests positive for COVID, or anyone who ends up knowing that they're in direct contact with someone who has tested positive, that's when, this is what we talked about today for 2 hours with the health department, we will follow the guidance of the health department, and we will expect the employee and the student to follow the guidance of the health department. The health department will be doing or having the responsibility of investigating, doing the contact tracing. That also leads to this. Well, Mr. Murphy, who's going to announce when there's a case? I'm not going to. Because there are certain requirements that we have to follow. Now, the health department has an obligation to do its homework and to make contact and to then notify people. That's the health department's job, not Mark Murphy, not the building principal. Now, let's just play a real life scenario here, Mr. Varansky, if you will.
Sure.
Let's say that the Varansky children are at school and one of them ends up testing positive. And we know it, and we work with the health department, we send them home. I am not going to get on the loudspeaker or our messaging system and say the Varansky children have tested positive. I'm probably also not going to say, hey, you know what? We've got X number of cases. Again, I will follow the direction of the health department. Any kind of communication like that is a joint effort, but with the health department.
Right.
It is. I don't have the liberty, and you don't want me to, as the parent. I mean, how would that?
Right.
Can you imagine? It's not like keeping secrets. It is what it is. The health department's going to notify people. Mm-hmm. So, hand washing, common sense. We're going to have hand washing, and we're going to emphasize hand washing and good hygiene like we always do. Cleaning and sanitizing. We will do our very best. There will be an increased sanitization schedule, and our custodians do a wonderful job at surfaces, spaces, classrooms, all of that. We're purchasing equipment above and beyond what we normally do for sanitization to do those kinds of things. Hand sanitizer will be provided by the district and expected to be used as students board the buses, as students enter the building, as students go in a classroom, as they exit the classroom, when they come back into a classroom. It's just going to be there, and we're going to expect everyone to use it. And then the fourth expectation that the guidance has given to us is that there is the expectation, given the pandemic, that as a public institution, we are expected to do our best to set up 6-foot social distancing parameters. In other words, what they're really expecting us to do is to limit the capacity so that you can do that. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're doing. The next piece is face coverings. This is going to be very simple at this point, and I'm thankful it can be simple. I may not agree with it. You may not agree with it. I may not like it. It's hot. I know it is. All of those kinds of things. Well, Mr. Murphy, is the building air conditioned? No. Do we have proper ventilation? Well, I don't know. Probably not. We're talking 1939 building, a 1990 building, a 1958 building. We have ventilators. We have windows that open. Yeah. I'm not trying to be facetious. Right. When you ask about, well, can we bring in big fans? No. The health department says that is a no-no. You're not supposed to have big fans because what is that doing? It's blowing droplets around potentially. So it's like everything you do is wrong. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just telling you the way it is. The face covering policy. All school employees will wear face coverings. It's a requirement. Now, all students ages 10 and above, equivalent of grades 3 and above, are required to wear face coverings at school. Okay, well, Mr. Varansky, what's a face covering?
Yeah. It could be a mask. It could be a face shield. Could be defined in a lot of different ways.
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what we want. We don't want people wrapping a T-shirt around their head or that kind of thing. But a face covering is a face covering. Now, we are going to provide masks. We are going to provide face shields for those who don't have them, for employees and for children as well. We do expect masks to be appropriate for the school setting. The natural question comes up. I'm doing the FAQs kind of as we do this. Yeah. Well, Mr. Varansky, Principal Varansky, what are you going to do when little Mark Murphy doesn't come to school wearing a mask? Are you going to kick me out? Are you going to kick me off the bus? That's not our desire. That is not how we work. We will work with our children. We will work with our families. We will provide what we can for students or families that don't have what they need. It's what we do. If someone wants to repeatedly violate the expectation, that's a different kind of a thing. And then we will follow the student code of conduct and the handbook and that kind of thing. But we do ask that masks be appropriate for the school setting as well. Here's the common sense approach, however, and I want to share this and hopefully clearly. When Mr. Varansky and I right now are not wearing a face covering. We could if we wanted to. If I felt safer and he felt safer, he could be wearing one. If he wanted to say, Mr. Murphy, you know what? We're a little close for comfort. Would you please wear your mask? That's a reasonable request. But when we are properly distanced and we're in our classroom or we're at the cafeteria table, let's use common sense. If you'd like to take your mask off and take a mask break or a face covering break, please do that. If you're comfortable doing that, do that. If you want to wear your mask all day long, that's okay too. Mm-hmm. I am not here to be the mask police. I'm not expecting our principals to be the mask police or the bus drivers or teachers. I do expect people to use common sense, and we are expected to follow governor's orders, unless there's the exemptions. And if there's an exemptions of which a student or staff member is qualified for, then refer to the list and we will work through that. That's okay. That's understandable.
Right.
Okay, now let's talk about the teaching and learning. Let's talk about our days. Like if we know, we said earlier, if we're that decision framework, if it's yellow, man, to the best of our ability, it's all kids every day, full capacity. Let's do the safety protocol as best we can, but it's everybody here. If it's orange or red, more than likely, it's a hybrid mode. Well, what does hybrid mean? Would you be willing to just take over this section and talk with us about this?
Yeah, so our plan is, and what we've been working on already, is we are taking the student population and we're breaking everybody into two groups, a group A and a group B. Students at our middle school, at our high school, their schedules are already done for next year. So our counselors, our principals are working diligently to split those up, make sure that students are taking the classes that they're already scheduled for, and that our regular curriculum is followed. Mm-hmm. So the way this will work is if you are in Group A, so say my children, Malachi and McKenna is in Group A, they would be in person on Monday and Tuesday. So they would attend school just as they normally would. They would attend all classes. They would go to specials. They would have recess and lunch. It would be a typical regular day. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they would stay home. On Wednesday and Thursday, they would complete remote learning lessons. So again, depending on the age of the child, depends on what that work will look like. Elementary students, K through 3, will be doing reading and math only. Once you get into fourth grade all the way through 8th, we're adding science and social studies into the mix, as well as possibly any long-term or year-long electives that they're in. And then a high school student would complete work for any class that they're currently enrolled in. On the flip side of that, Group B students, they would stay home and do those remote learning lessons on Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday and Thursday, they would be in person. They would attend their classes as normal, a regular schedule with their teachers face-to-face. Fridays, and I believe I think there's a slide on that next, Mr. Lewis. Fridays, we are saying we're not assigning new work on Fridays. That doesn't mean it's a non-school day. What we are doing is we're intentionally leaving Fridays as no new instruction to specifically have time to work with children. Maybe that's one-to-one, that could be small groups, and that day is intended to provide intervention, enrichment opportunities, social emotional learning, time to work on any work that didn't get completed during the week, work with kids on something that they didn't understand, but our staff will be working and they will be making connections. Staff, in addition, will be using Fridays to work with their grade level teams, work with their departments, to possibly be recording lessons for the following week. They would be grading, they would be communicating with parents. So lots going on that day, but we just wanted to intentionally set that day aside. But it is a school day, and our staff is working. The other thing I'll just quickly mention is one of the concerns was work. When will work be assigned? When will it be due? So when a student is remote, really there's going to be two options, and teachers will communicate that at the beginning of the year. One option is your child may have a teacher that wants to do live instruction. So what they would do is they would post a link to the day's lesson, and students could click on that link, join a Zoom session, and watch that instruction live. Mm-hmm. Some teachers don't feel comfortable with that. So the other option would be that lessons would be pre-recorded, and then they would just be posted the morning of the remote learning day, and students would have that day to complete that. Our general policy is that work will not be expected to be due any sooner than 24 hours from the time it's posted. So students will have at least 24 hours to complete that work, and many teachers will it'll probably be longer than that. Our other goal is to have work due by the end of the week, and to avoid any work being assigned or due on the weekends, just to give everybody a break. Couple questions that came on that. Again, we're following the county color system to decide that. So right now, Tuscarawas County is orange. So we would be following if we were to start school today or tomorrow, we would be following this hybrid approach. Mm-hmm. Red has hybrid or remote, and really that's going to just come down to what does the county look like? What does our local school district look like? If there's a big outbreak right here in one of our villages, then we may at that point choose to go remote. But if Tuscarawas County is red, and Tusky Valley itself, we're not having lots of issues here and it's in another part of the county, then we would continue on that hybrid plan. Also, just to clarify, the district, even though we have students in other counties, the district itself is in Tuscarawas County, so we follow Tuscarawas County no matter what. So, anything
Great.
else that I?
No, fantastic. I do want to mention about, students that perhaps are on IEPs or students with special needs and who have an individualized education plan.
Right.
There are some students that, for instance, spend a majority of their time in what we would call a resource setting. So they're with an intervention specialist or an aid support,
Right.
but in a resource setting. And depending on the student, and depending on the situation and the family and all of those things, we want to extend the opportunity. Those students have the opportunity to attend all 4 days versus an A-B day. Now, students that may have an IEP, but just require specifically designed instruction and some accommodations and different interventions along the way, then we would want those students to be assigned and follow an A-B schedule with their peers. But we want to be very sensitive to that too. And we'll talk a little bit later about how we take our student population and divide them into Group A and Group B, what that looks like. But no, thank you for covering that. The other thing I did want to mention, and you talked about the assignments and the due dates and that kind of thing. Again, you know what? We want, our goal is common sense. Our goal is common sense. Yes, could I assign something to be due at midnight on a Saturday night? I could. And students could be expected to do that. Is that a common sense or wise approach? If we're truly interested in everyone's social and emotional well-being, probably not. Would it make sense to perhaps, based on the age and grade level or based on the assignment, based on the work, would it make sense, hey, you know what, this assignment is going to be due on Monday morning? That's pretty natural. So if you're a parent and you say, hey, with the remote, a combination of in-person and remote, I do need some more based on my parent work schedule or whatever. Sure. I need the time over the weekend to work with my son or daughter on their homework and on the things that are due and to support them. Great. That's called common sense. So that's what we're after.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can't legislate everything. No. Do you know what I mean? I've learned that a long time ago. You can't legislate all of that stuff. Okay. So let's talk about other options. Because we've laid out the district overarching plan. And as much as I really don't like this, I told you what I liked earlier, I believe in what we're doing. I believe in it for my own children. I believe in it for all children. All children of this community. That is what we desire. I do believe in it with all my heart. There are some families that may say, though, Mr. Varansky, Principal Varansky, Superintendent Varansky, whatever it may be, Mr. Murphy, I just don't like it.
Right.
I'm not comfortable with it. I don't want my son or daughter around anybody else. They've not been around anybody else since March, and I'm not going to start now. There are people that have expressed that to me. And that's how they feel. So there are other options, and I'm going to walk through those quickly. One would be remaining a Tusky Valley student, but enrolling in what we call our Trojan A+ Academy. I want to be clear about what that is and be clear about what it is not. The A+ Academy is a 100% online curriculum, online assessments, online everything. It is managed by Mr. Jim Linden, who is our site manager. Jim is a licensed educator, a retiree of our school district, and he does not teach. He's not responsible for teaching. He is not the instructor. He manages the platform, and he may communicate via phone or email, more email than anything, about, hey, Derek, you haven't done such and such. When are you going to do that? Here's your grade so far, that kind of thing. But it is not taught by Tusky Valley teachers. The Tusky Valley teacher is not the teacher of record. The computer is the teacher of record, and it just comes to us and we plug it in our systems. If someone is opting to do the A+ Trojan Academy, the 100% online, that is a 9-week commitment. a grading period commitment. The nice thing about that, though, is that if the Varansky children decided, or you decided that that's what you're going to do, then the nice thing is they remain a Tusky Valley student.
Yeah.
But it's really not designed for what it's not designed for that. It's we want our kids to be with our teachers, but that is an option. The other option would be, hey, you know what? None of this is sitting well with me, so I need to withdraw my son or daughter, and I'm going to be the parent, and I'm going to be the teacher. I'm going to homeschool them. Well, then I need to withdraw my child. I need to go through the application process at the Educational Service Center in New Philadelphia, and your curriculum is approved, and the assessments that you do are approved, and I sign off on it, and you're good to go to be the parent teacher or whoever you're designating to be your child's teacher. But that does require a withdrawal from Tusky Valley Schools. The other option is withdrawing from Tusky Valley Schools and enrolling your son or daughter in some other community school or digital platform. The question, we talk about remote learning, and well, is the Trojan Academy remote learning? Not really. I'm differentiating. The Trojan Academy is an online, 100% online platform, not taught by Tusky Valley teachers. Our Tusky Valley's remote learning plan, whether it's hybrid or full remote, if we are thrust into a full remote situation, it is our teachers, our principals, our staff providing the work and teaching and working alongside our kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I hope I'm clarifying that, because I know that's been kind of a question here and there. Do you have any questions yet?
There's a couple questions that came in. And you'll see when our plan is released next week after it's board approved, there's some questions on there, or some comments about what work will be assigned each day. We have cleaned that up a little bit and clarified. So if your student is in grades K through 3, you can expect on the 2 days of remote learning when work is assigned, you can expect a reading and a math assignment each day to be assigned and to be due. Middle school, you add, or really grades 4 through 8, you're adding in math, reading, science, social studies, possibly elective depending on what they're in. For example, if you're assigned to PE for 9 weeks, I'm probably not going to have remote work for that. But if you are in band, our band directors would probably like your child to practice their music. So there may be an assignment that pops up on that. So teachers will be communicating that at the beginning of the year based on the classes that they're in. If you're at a high school, you have mostly chosen those classes, or it's a core class that's required. So an 8-period day, take out lunch, you could have up to 7 classes. Students in grades 9 through 12 should be expected to have an assignment possibly for each of those classes on the days that they are remote. Doesn't mean that a teacher will necessarily assign something. So there may be a day, like for example, if they're in health, there may not be a health assignment, but you can probably guarantee that there's going to be a math or an ELA lesson that day. Students that are in AP or CCP, just to clarify that a little bit, those classes will continue. Mr. Phillips, Mrs. McElwee at the high school level is working on getting those organized and making sure that we're meeting the minutes necessary for that. So those classes will continue as well. Question there, are the only available options, are they all online? Well, right now we are hybrid. So if you're choosing just to stay remaining at Tusky Valley, which we hope you do, right now it would be the 2 days in person, 3 days remote. The other options that are available outside of that would be on our A+ Academy online, our virtual school, homeschool, or that's really the only options available right here. So I'm not sure if I answered that all the way, but you can ask another question if that wasn't very clear. Yeah. So I think that's...
Well, let's go into some of the frequently asked questions then, because what we've tried to do is anticipate the kinds of questions that naturally folks would have. Yeah. So the first one would be the student groups. If we are in a hybrid mode, first of all, when are we going to find that out? Well, it's based on the color system, so we'll just keep monitoring that based on our county's color alert system. But our student groups are being arranged right now. I mean, our team has been working behind the scenes very intentionally. And I want to emphasize that the student groupings are not done randomly. The student groupings are not going to be done eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It's not going to be that just let the computer do it. It is intentional, strategic, we're a small school district. We know our students. We know our families. We know dynamics. We know who should be together and who should not be together. We know our siblings. We know, so, and we also know based from high school to elementary, you've got specially designed courses. You've got at the high school level, you have individual student needs. You have students that are on individualized education plans. So it's important that we work with everything that we have, and we intentionally, very manually design those student groupings. Once that's done, our goal is we will be sending a letter from me to each of our families, letting you know which group your son or daughter or your children would be assigned to, and explanation of what that means, and where you can go for additional resources, just all of that. So anticipate a letter coming from me. We trust that would be by the week of August 3rd. School opening. This is the next question. Ms. Murphy, the board has approved its calendar last in probably, I think it was February or March, right before all this happened.
Right.
The board approved the calendar for this coming school year. Our goal is to follow our board approved calendar. The nice thing is, however, because we are applying for a remote learning plan through the Department of Education, that gives us tremendous flexibility in terms of what things look like, what your calendar looks like. So I do not feel the need to bring a change of calendar to our board. We will follow that calendar. We will open school with students as planned on Monday, August 24th. Thursday, August 20th will be an in-service day for our teachers and staff. That's a day for potential meetings. It will look very different, I'm sure, than what it ever has in the past, but that will be designed for teacher, staff, in service, all of those things. Friday the 21st will be a full teacher day. That's at their discretion. They can use that day however they need for their own prep and those kinds of things. Then the next 2 Fridays, so the first 2 weeks, will be truly 4-day weeks. Even if we're in yellow and it's all kids every day, I'm telling you, we're going to modify the calendar and it will be a 4-day week in week 1 and week 2. If we're in a hybrid, it will be a 4-day week, week 1, week 2. But we will use Friday, August 28th and Friday, September 4th as professional development days for our teaching staff to provide the technology training that they need and are asking for, provide collaboration time, all of those kinds of things. How will attendance be taken? Are you going to be checking my son or daughter's attendance? Yes. If we're in normal mode or a hybrid mode, any kind of in-person day, attendance will be taken normally. On the remote learning days, if there is remote learning days, then the attendance is taken basically through your son or daughter's work. That's how we did it in March, April, and May. We're monitoring attendance based on student participation, student level of engagement. And we do work very carefully and closely with the Tuscarawas County court system, juvenile court. And we have been working with certain cases where students are either not in person attending or not showing up or not doing the work. And we work with those. So transportation is another big question that folks would want to know about. Are buses going to run normally? Yes, our goal is that buses would run normally. If we're open under yellow, our buses would run their routes normally and they would pick up at their full capacity like they normally do and run routes like they normally do, all of those kinds of things. If we're in a hybrid mode, the buses will again run normally, but with half the capacity because they're not picking up all kids. They're only picking up designated students, and our drivers would know who those students are as well. Again, students grades 3 to 12 or ages 10 and above will be required to wear masks on a school bus. They will get hand sanitizer as they enter the bus. We are investigating the elimination of shuttles as one additional safety precaution. I know that Mr. Spillman, our transportation supervisor, Mrs. Hoagland, our secretary, principals have been thinking about, well, could we look at what would that look like if we eliminated the shuttles so that there's not exchange of students from bus to bus, but the bus would just truly take students from their home to the designated location. So we are looking at that, and we would hope to have that determined over the next month before school opens. Buckeye Career Center and parochial school transportation will go on as normal as well.
There's a question here. Can parents request what days or what groups they're part of to help with transportation? I think it's a specific question about a child that's open enrolled and rides with another family.
Can they request to be assigned to a certain group?
Yes, so that they're with somebody that they currently ride to
You
school
know,
with.
I would say cautiously, yes. It's always a domino effect when we want to accommodate. I just can't guarantee that on behalf of our principals, on behalf of Mr. Spillman, on behalf we like to accommodate. I can't promise. So if there's truly something that's critically important that we need to know, I would say we want to know that, and
Right.
we'll do our best. It is not a guarantee. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? You want me to keep going?
Not right now. I
Okay.
think we'll just wait till the end. And
Okay,
see.
all right. Food services. Will students be able to go to the cafeteria? Yes, our hope, especially if we're in a hybrid mode, again, because we have intentionally brought down the capacity, the number of kids in the building at one time, our hope would be, again, building principals know how to do this. They're scheduling experts. They will schedule time where our students can make sure that they wash their hands and use the restroom to wash their hands, go to the cafeteria. Our goal would be that our kids get to dine and eat and be with their friends in the cafeteria. With safety protocol, with distancing, we may need to set up additional tables and chairs in different places. And I trust our principals know how to handle those kinds of things. And even as far as recess, our goal is that students would be able to enjoy recess with their friends. Again, it's half the size of the group that would normally be attending. The principals may even divide that into smaller groups. That's their discretion. That's their professional judgment. If I'm the building principal, then I would want to use my professional judgment in how I manage to make sure that that's done safely. Are we going to require masks of students on the playground? Probably. Are we going to require that students wear their masks while they're in the hallway and in the cafeteria or on their way to the cafeteria? Yes. They need to obviously take their masks off so they can eat. I'm not trying to say that sarcastically, but those are kinds of the questions that I'm getting. And so I'm just telling you that, yeah, common sense. I mentioned the next slide is dealing with recess, and I talked about that already. And of course, we would be adding safety protocol in between recess periods. We have purchased, or it's in the process of being purchased, equipment, fogging sprayers that adhere to the microbes on equipment like that, on surfaces like that. It I don't know how it works, right. Derek. It just latches to the microbes and kills the virus or whatever germ it is. What about athletics and extracurriculars? Well, this is changing nearly every single day too. There's been, I think everything that I'm talking about, not just athletics, the whole thing is tumultuous to me. There's been a change of leadership with the Ohio High School Athletic Association. They too are working closely with the governor's office, and we're receiving just today, yesterday I received another order talking about for students, whether it be contact sports, non-contact sports, intra-scrimmaging and competition, which means internally us competing, that's permissible. Scrimmaging and competition is permissible as long as you meet a whole laundry list of protocols, including testing each athlete. If let's say we were going to be competing over the next 2 weeks, from district to district and traveling, then as of right now, that order says that all student athletes and trainers and everybody, the coaches, need to be tested and test negative within 72 hours 72 hours prior to the event and show evidence of the negative test at the event, as well as all of the safety protocols in place. So, to be determined. But our hope would be that all of our athletics, extracurriculars, band, our hope would be that we are able to compete on the field and on the court and do shows and halftimes. But I really don't know. I honestly do not know at this point in time what that will look like. Our school supply list, we normally put those out. Mr. Murphy, winter supply list going to be provided. Well, we normally do that in May. We have intentionally not done that to add to confusion. And right now our principals and teacher teams are working to make sure that whatever, and I will look at the list before it goes out, by the way, and I know you do too, but we want to make sure that it is pared down to be as essential and as important as it needs to be, given the uncertainty of what mode of operation we would be in. So whether it's supplies that our students need to have with them at home or supplies that we need to have here at school. One of the things that we will insist upon is that the shared supplies will not be happening. I know that at the elementary level, man, we do that really well. That's all we teach everybody to share. We share cubbies, we share tubs, we share crayons, and it's good. We share glue. So, we've got classroom supplies of all of this stuff typically. But now we really need those things to be individually taken care of. What about lockers and drinking fountains? Will students use lockers? Will they be banned from using lockers? Are they going to be permitted to carry backpacks? Are they going to be able to go get a drink at the drinking fountain? Well, again, we want to use common sense. I trust our building principals, and a lot of this will be defined for us over the next month. It will either be defined for us or we will be defining it on behalf of the district. But more often than not, we've got enough lockers. In most of our buildings, we have enough lockers so that no one has to share a locker. And if that's the case, my feeling is, you're welcome to use your locker. But again, our principals will know how to handle that best. Will they be permitted to carry backpacks? Well, if we're not doing lockers, then yes, I'm going to say yes, backpacks are going to be permitted. Normally, that's kind of a no-no at our middle school and high school, especially for other safety reasons. And we always want to be mindful of all safety protocol. But in this particular case, we may need to allow our students to carry backpacks. It just may make the most sense for them. And in terms of drinking fountains, we know that probably being able to keep up with sanitizing drinking fountains throughout the course of the day at each of our buildings is not something that's reasonable, that our custodians can just, I don't know if we can keep up with that enough to make sure that things are safe for our students and staff that may use those. Now, our middle school and high school do have bottle filling stations, so I believe that it would be perfectly fine for those bottle filling stations to be used. We are going to strongly advocate for students to bring with them water bottles, for staff to have water bottles. Be hydrated. We want our students and staff to remain hydrated. If we need to provide water filling stations at primary school and intermediate, I think that that's something that we're going to have to do. They're not sitting in the buildings right now, but it is something that we need to probably provide if we're going to be in person and if we can't use the drinking fountains. Communications, how can I make sure that I get messages? That is really up to you, mom and dad. If you want to make sure you're getting accurate messages from the school, whether it be from me or from the building principal or your teaching staff or the teachers, it is imperative that your information, your contact information, so name, address, cell phone number, email addresses, even if it's 1 or 5. I mean, some people have many emails and cell phones. All of that is managed by you on our district website in what's called the OneView Parent Portal. And I would say if you have not done that yet, we ask every year for that OneView Parent Portal to be updated, to make sure that your child's information is correct. If there's allergies, if there's sensitivities, if there's medications, if there's, have you acknowledged the student parent handbook? just all of those directory information, just all of those things are in that OneView parent portal. What, and then where do I go for help? You want to take that one?
Yeah.
Where do I go for help? If I need
Sure.
help, my computer doesn't work. I'm depressed. I don't have food in my house. I need a water bottle.
Right. Yeah.
Where do I go for help?
Right. So what we created in the spring, and it was pretty successful, was our own help desk. So if you go to the Tusky Valley website, at the very top of the page in the banner, actually, I think the logo is probably behind me. It just says TVLS District Help Desk. So if you click on that, you can fill out your information and what you need assistance with. And the way our tech department has set that up is based on what you need help with. So if it's technology, if it's a Chromebook not working, then that email, your message is sent directly to our IT department, and they can quickly respond to you. If it's with food, it's sent to our food services. If it's a curriculum homework question, it could possibly, depending on what you put in there, it could go to a building principal or it could come to me. So we use that and we quickly can filter and get that message to the right person. That way you're not trying to call the building and then trying to get in touch with whoever you needed to speak with. So we highly encourage you to use that help desk as much as possible. And that's for families, parents, students, whatever you might need. So that will be your best bet.
I have to echo that. I mean, I think that I'm so thankful for our help desk, and your wife helped set that up, I believe, and Mr. Lewis. It's awesome that if I, as a parent or a student, if I need help, it immediately notifies the right people.
Right.
And I just think that has worked out really well. So the next topic that people may want to know about is field trips. Will there be field trips? At this point in time, I'm going to say no. There will not be field trips, physical field trips. Of course, we always promote virtual ones. I know nothing takes the place of real life field trips. It's fun to get on a bus and travel and go to the museum or go to the park and go to the zoo, those kinds of things. And we will obviously periodically reevaluate that as we just move along. Visitor policy. Our Mr. Murphy, are you going to permit visitors at the school? And if so, what safety protocol is going to be followed? I would say, generally speaking, unless it's an emergency, visitors are not going to come into our schools unless we just have to. If there is going to be someone that we need to allow into the building for whatever purpose, emergency purpose, then our protocol will be as they check in, because everyone goes to the office first. First of all, they have to be buzzed in. Then they go to the office. They will go and undergo a temperature check and health assessment on the spot before they go anywhere else in the building. But we really need visitors to be limited or, quite honestly, just not permitted. We talked about parent training earlier. That was it was a request. It was a pretty clear request through the parent survey back in May. And so would you like to talk about
Sure.
our soon to be updated Inform, Engage, Empower Parent Connect?
Yes. So if you're not familiar, TV Connect is our family engagement series. And we started it last year. And it just lists up front all of the events we plan to put on for the year so that you can get it on your calendar. One of the things that became very apparent when we had to switch quickly to remote learning was that parents were not familiar with the devices, with the online platforms we use, and because we moved so quickly, we just couldn't provide that help. So what we are doing and what we're creating right now is a schedule of events to get us started right here probably in mid-August, and that'll continue for probably a few months, but there will be weekly opportunities for you to engage with some training on how to use a Chromebook, how do I access Progress Book, how do I use Google Classroom, how does Zoom work or Google Hangouts, what should I know about that? And so our tech department, along with several of our teachers, have come forward with some willing to help with that. So that will be created and it'll be placed out on our social media, on our website, and you'll be able to sign up for that. Because some people vary in how they would like that training to take place, we will offer on-site training. So parents, community members can come into the building following social distancing protocols. It'll be probably an evening event. Or there will be an opportunity where you can just join us virtual through probably a Zoom link. So you can attend in person, remotely from your home, and learn a little bit more about the technology that we're using. So again, that's in the process of being created. Early August, that will be pushed out so you can start getting those events on your calendar. Also today, I spoke with the Tuscarawas County Library. Many of you know Miss Jessica from the Bolivar branch. We're working right now on a training on how to use all of the library's online resources. The district itself has many access to many resources as far as how to students access texts from home. And so some outside partners are starting to reach out to us as well and partnering with us to provide those trainings just so that you're aware of the opportunities available to you. So.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. And thanks for helping, put that together.
Sure.
So we're excited about that. It's anytime we get to provide that kind of outreach and connect with our parents. And I love the theme of we want to keep our parents and families informed and engaged and empowered as parents. And that's one of the ways that we can do that. So that's called TV Connect. And so watch for that coming up, an updated version here in mid-August. Great. So at this point, we'll turn it over to, I know you're monitoring the questions that may be coming in, so we'll just fire away at questions.
Yeah, all right. There are a couple questions here, and I'm sorry there's a lag between what I see and what shows up there. But there was a question about just work being completed and work expectations. Again, I know that wasn't easy in the spring when we quickly changed to remote. There was a little bit of confusion about what was assigned each day, what was due. So our teachers and their grade level teams will be working on those. Our goal is to have those expectations the same. So if I'm a fifth grader, the fifth grade team as a whole is probably going to have something similar as far as their expectations. Or if I'm an eighth grader, same thing. That team will work on that and communicate with you a little bit. And I'm sure they will have a way to let you know what is being assigned and what's due. Many of our teachers, especially at our middle school, use a homework calendar, and it's available on our website. Again, that will be one of the tech trainings we provide on how do you access that calendar so you can see when work is assigned, when it's due. Progress book, though there's just a question about a little bit of concern about only seeing things when it's late. Our teachers are supposed to be updating that on a weekly basis, and I think a majority of them, or if not all of them, do. I would just say if there's concern about that or grades not being posted, just please reach out to the teacher. They're the first ones, and just find out about why you're not seeing anything.
Always reach out to the teacher first, please.
Yeah.
And start there. It's just respect.
Yeah.
The respect issue is if you're the teacher, if you're my teacher, or you're my son or daughter's teacher, I need to connect with you first, not just call Mr. Phillips, the principal, first.
Correct.
Or Mr. Murphy, the superintendent, to complain about you. I need to reach out to you and say, can you help me understand that?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah. And again, we'll be providing, that's one of the first trainings we'll be doing is how to access Progress Book. For students going into fourth grade, that's new. You've not seen Progress Book before, so that information will come home with how to create an account. Question about devices. We will be issuing devices. Our district is 1-to-1. Typically in the past, we've just kept devices at home until you were in fifth grade. But students in grades K through 2 will be assigned an iPad. That iPad will go back and forth with them. They are already they have, I believe, outer boxes on them, so they're pretty durable. And honestly, with all of the devices that went out and returned, we didn't have any broken in the spring. So kudos to our kids with that. Starting in grades 2, they are issued a Chromebook. Again, because we had to move so quickly, those just often came home in a Ziploc bag with a charger. Cases have been ordered for those that protect them, and so each of our kids in the intermediate school will have a case with their Chromebook to be able to travel back and forth. Grades 5 through 12 already had those. If you're a fourth grade student going into fifth grade, they will issue a Chromebook. Our middle school and high school kids had the opportunity to either keep their Chromebook over the summer, so if students chose to keep them. I know some of the options on there were locked down over the summer just for security. That will be all lifted once school starts back up. If your child turned in their Chromebook, they will get the exact same Chromebook back. Especially, I know some people turned it in because there was an issue with it or they needed something fixed. So that's being taken care of and it'll be put back out to you. Question about just to clear up preschool. Preschool is run in conjunction with the East Central Ohio Educational Service Center. They have not provided their guidance on preschool yet. So there's just a question of if that's going to be provided. So just stay tuned at the moment for that.
I don't know.
We'll see what happens.
I don't know yet.
Kindergarten, I know there was I'm not sure if there was a question tonight, but normally what we do is we have small groups come in to complete the kindergarten readiness assessment. That's a state required assessment that really lets us know where kids are at as they're entering our buildings. Mrs. Clements will be in touch, that she's our primary and intermediate principal, to let you know what kindergarten is going to look like, especially as this is a brand new adventure for those kids. So stay tuned for that. Question, is there going to be a supply list for the high school?
There has never been a supply list for the high school. So what we normally do is once that first day happens, so as your son or daughter walks through his or her schedule with their teachers, typically that's when it supply list for high school students is usually very limited. You want to just come to school with a couple notebooks, some paper, some pencils and pens. I would keep it pretty simple unless you're directed otherwise.
Yeah. The question, I just missed it. A question about like speech and other services, those will continue to the greatest extent possible. We'll have that in person. There may be opportunities where those outside providers or Mrs. Bradweiser might contact students on a Friday, but to the greatest extent possible, all of those services will be provided. It's just making it work so students are able to get that service when they're in-house with their AB day. There was a question about sports and whether they're going to camps, things like that. Mr. Franks is on the chat. He's our athletic director. His comment there was non-contact sports such as golf, baseball, softball, and volleyball are able to participate versus other schools. And of course, that arena, the sports arena, it just keeps changing at the moment. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. There's a question: will a note go home saying that your child has been exposed to COVID? I know you mentioned that a little bit, but
Maybe, probably. Again, if we do communicate that, it would be very similar to, well, I don't know if I can say that it's similar to. I mean, when, for instance, when Nurse Crank or our building principal is dealing with perhaps a lice situation, right, or a bed bug situation, or that kind of a situation, I know that COVID is different, but we would probably do something similar where we send some kind of a notification. Maybe it's a half slip of paper, something like that, as a notice to our families that, hey, just be mindful. We do have a situation where, or we just be mindful of that. Just know it's not going to give any personally identifiable information, and that kind of thing. And again, we will work with the health department in terms of those kinds of messages. It's not about keeping a secret, and it's also not about publicizing and creating fear. And it's also not about being, I don't know, there's so many issues to be mindful of. There's legal ramifications, and then there's just respect issue as well. But it's a valid question. Right. We will be working with the health department in any and all types of messaging. And of course, and again, I said this earlier, but Nurse Crank and I are the liaison. So that message may come directly from Nurse Crank. It may be Nurse Crank and the building principal. It may be me. It just depends. Right. It depends on the significance, the level, the amount, that kind of thing.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Okay. A question: if a middle school chooses the academy, will they still get a normal schedule first? I think that's the Trojan A+ Academy that you're referring to. Our middle school, high school schedules they are completed already. So if you're speaking about like their normal middle school schedule, that is done and created already. If a parent or a student would choose to go with the A+ Academy, it won't be the exact same schedule. That is created mostly off of requirements of what is required for that grade level, what is required for extra classes that might be needed, and that schedule is built in conjunction between Mr. Linden, the site manager, and the building counselor. So in the middle school's case, it would be Mrs. Peterson playing a role in that. And those students would get a Chromebook as well because they are one of our students taking that online academy. Mm-hmm. There was a question earlier, a comment, and I can't find it, so I'll try to remember what it said. But did the district consider making Orange an in-person or hybrid, depending on counts?
Yeah, we did.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
I think, based on what you know from the health department, if a student or teacher tests positive, will his or her classmates have to quarantine or be tested?
The response to that question was asked by me today, mm-hmm, with our other area superintendents, with our health commissioner, and the response was, that's complicated. And then it went into COVID positive, asymptomatic. Well, then you go this direction: positive, asymptomatic, positive, symptomatic, positive, asymptomatic, mm-hmm, negative, Negative doesn't mean anything to me. It depends on, so to say that, yeah, complicated, I would agree with what the health commissioner said, complicated.
Yeah.
And it's like case by case basis.
Right. Okay. I think that's all of the questions that I saw come up in the chat so far. There was a question about asking us to contact you with questions. I'm not sure about contact information, so we invite you to just get a hold of us through email or by calling the school, and we can walk you through and answer any of those additional questions that you have.
Right.
But as of now, I don't see any other questions popping up on the screen, Mr. Murphy.
Okay.
So.
Going back to options or whatever, the question about that, I know that our approach at Tusky Valley our approach right now is that as a parent, you're not going to see a flurry of forms being sent to your house. You're not going to be given, we're not doing a survey for you to tell us, hey, I want full in-person, I want full online, I want full remote, we're not doing that. And the reason for that is we have worked very hard, given everything that we know, everything that we're told, following all the guidance, and then we have built the plan that we believe is good. I may not like it all, but we believe it's good for all students. And our primary mission is to have our students with us in person for the longest amount of time possible. And we believe that the way we can get our students with us in person, hopefully for the longest time possible, is to follow the guidance that we've been given, limit the capacity of students in our building at any given time, and then we get to be with them longer, meaning duration of weeks. So that's our primary mission. But we're not just going to send out flyers or forms for parents to fill out and send back. We are going to assume, based on that survey, when out of 861 respondents and 92% said we will follow the model that's been decided by the district, then I am trusting that overall we've designed the plan, we're going to implement the plan according to the color system and according to discretion based on the scenario that we find ourselves in, and we trust that our families and our parents will be with us. If our parents and families choose to not follow the plan, then they need to let us know. And we're going to follow up with the people that initially said, hey, I need to look at some of these other options. We will do our part to follow up. But if you believe that this plan is not suitable to you or to your son or daughter, then we would ask that you be in touch with us, and then we will work with you. Mr. Varansky and I, together, individually, we will team up. We will follow up with each family to walk you through what that looks like and what that means.
Yeah.
We believe that that's the most appropriate thing for us to do for our district.
Right.
Yeah.
And then a question, I think that'll be our last question for tonight, is what's being sprayed around the school safe, or has it been tested to be breathed in by the kids if it's sprayed in the halls or the classes?
Has it been tested to see if it's safe to breathe?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes. How can I say this? Every chemical, every solution, everything that we use in our buildings for any purposes has to meet certain specifications. And we have to have sheets on every single one of them. We are never, ever going to purchase something that is not safe for our staff or students.
Right. Yeah.
So there's the answer.
Yeah, and just as a follow-up, the spray that we're using, actually it's things that we've been using in our cafeterias and our desks for several years. So it's just a continuation. Again, Nurse Crank previously came from the health department, so she brought a lot of that knowledge and skills with her. And so many of those things that we're talking about, we already have in place.
Right.
It's just making sure that we're sanitizing on a larger scale.
Much larger scale.
Yeah.
And we use, I mentioned the data sheets that we have to have on every every single chemical, every bottle, every element that we do has to have a data sheet. And I know, Mr. Spillman has been working, just last week met with our sales rep, that our chemical company that provides all of these products for us and the equipment. And I know that the Sanibet, I believe it's called Sanibet, and Quatstat, both of those are the kinds of solutions that we have always used, but will now be purchasing a lot more of them in every area.
Yeah.
Every classroom is going to have a spray bottle. There's again sanitizer everywhere. All of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In just conclusion, because I knew there was 2 more comments there, but the county color system, we are in Tuscarawas County. So even though we have students in Stark, we have staff in Stark, we still follow Tuscarawas County. With that being said, the district, as Mr. Murphy explained earlier, it's always at the district's discretion on how we operate. So we could be in orange, and that could mean we are hybrid, or that could change based on information that we receive. So that's general guidance. That's a general decision framework. So as of now, with what we know from the health department and what we know around us, we would be beginning with hybrid. And then as that changes or it needs to be changed, then Mr. Murphy would communicate that. So again, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. That's all of our questions. So
Great. Derek, thank you for co-hosting and responding, answering all the questions and filtering through those. Mr. Lewis, thank you once again for providing the opportunity. And to all of you for watching, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for caring and for tuning in. Know that we are for our students. We are here. We want to be open. We want our open at full capacity. And yet we do believe that we have the safest, the most thorough, the most balanced, and the most robust plan that we can have for our students and staff here and families at Tusky Valley. So with all that, have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
And go Trojans.